Welcome to Have a Kind Word with Yourself, a podcast that helps us to keep kind, creative, and connected. My name is Rose Kondo, and I'm your host. I'm a poet, a performer, a sister to three amazing siblings, and I love connecting with creative communities. In each episode, I talk to a fellow creative about their work and some of the things that help them to keep well along the way. My chat today is with a fabulous author and, like me, a big lover of books. I will admit that after our chat, I go into a deep dive online to see if I can find an armchair made of bookshelves. I'll be sure to let you know and to let today's guest know if I end up finding one. Before we start, I wonder if you can have a think about something you love to do where time just disappears. Is there an activity that takes you gently into a flow state? A term coined by Hungarian psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I think I've pronounced that right. But maybe you call it being in the zone or in your groove. And often in these times, anxiety and stress can melt away, getting into that flow state. Maybe you have this activity coming up for you soon, but if not, maybe try to find some space for this. Okay, let's get these kind words rolling. My guest today is Sairish Hussain. Sairish is, as noted on the National Center for Writing website, a young writer and an old soul smashing stereotypes by writing human stories. Sairish is a Bradford-based author and lecturer in creative writing. Her debut novel, The Family Tree, was published by HarperCollins in 2020 and was shortlisted for the Costa First Novel Award and longlisted for the Authors Club Best First Novel Award. Sairish was selected by Kai Miller as one of the UK's unmissable writers, and she was one of the finalists in the Women's Prize and Good Housekeeping Futures Award, an initiative which celebrates the most promising emerging female authors today. Her second book, Hidden Fires, was published in 2024, with iNews calling it a sweeping tale of resilience, and she is here with us now. Welcome, Sairish, to Have a Kind Word with Yourself.
Hi, Rose. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to have you on the podcast. And I would love to start off by asking, what are some kind words you've heard recently?
Ooh, well, the first thing that comes to mind is I took my grandma the other day to a couple of her appointments. Nothing too exciting, Specsavers and a podiatrist appointment. And then I brought her home and I made her some dinner and we just had a lovely day together. And the whole time she was like saying thank you, but also like praying for me.
Oh, wow.
And it really made me think because she did the same thing to the optometrist who's it was an Asian lad, and before she left she prayed for him. And that might sound really strange, but it's so common in my culture where elders will give you prayers. So the Arabic word is dua,
Mm,
and they'll say, I hope God, makes you successful and gives you good health. And the old biddies will always wish you have find a really nice husband as well. Um, and it's just such a lovely tradition, but because you're so used to hearing it, you don't actually stop and think.
yeah.
It's kind of like an old school way of sending you positive vibes and good energy. And it's just so beautiful, I think. Yeah. So that it kind of made me stop and think and makes you kind of feel uplifted after you've done something nice for somebody else.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, noticing that it was said to the optometrist and to yourself as well. That's really sweet.
Yeah, because he really helped her because he spoke to her in Urdu. So
Mm.
it really helped her with the test. So just before she left, and she does that, and she's not the only one. Sort of, it's just across the board. It's just a common thing. Um, And yeah, it's just lovely.
Oh, I like that. I love that there's probably a kind of symbiotic thing too going on where it's something she does, which may make her feel good, and then the recipient of that probably feels really good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I also like to ask near the start of my chats with amazing people like yourself, if you can remember how our paths first crossed, which wasn't that long ago. Do you remember?
I remember Euros. I don't know if you remember me though, because we've had two meetings, and the first one I
Yes.
was at one of your very lovely events at Huddersfield Literature Festival, and you were there with I think Eleanor, who does the beautiful music, and you performed your
Yeah.
poetry, and I was in awe of you. And I got your book, and you signed it for me. And yeah, it was that was our first meeting. But then our paths crossed again,
Hmm.
and we worked together for Story, the creative writing charity. And I'd recently joined, and you joined after me. And when they said Rose Condo, I was like, I know that name. I'm familiar with that name. So yeah.
I love the double meeting because I vaguely remember meeting you the first time, and you might know this from when you're at events and you're signing books and things. There is such lovely connection in the moment, but sometimes it then leaves your brain right away because you're meeting
It
so
does.
many people. So I think I remember more of a kind of sense of your warmth because I've gotten to know that a bit more since having worked with you at First Story. But yeah, definitely a lot of warmth in your presence for sure. And you are Bradford based, and I'm based in Manchester. So our paths crossed quite often, like they are right now, on video chats, but we've only kind of met in person a few times. But such is the way of the world these days.
Yeah, true. And it's always a pleasure, but I feel like it's hard in that setting when you're working because you really want to sit down and just have a catch up, but there's always so much going on. So this feels really special.
Yeah, definitely. So, in the intro, I was talking about your work as an author. You've done some lecturing work. I know you've done a bit of teaching with First Story as well as working with the team. So, you do loads of different things and lots of creative pursuits. And is there something within all the hats that you wear that you really love about the creative work that you do?
Yeah, you're right. When you say it like that, there's you're not just a writer. There's so many other roles you have to learn them, and
Yeah.
so many other skill sets that are kind of become involved, and you have to get good at them. I think I really do love sort of want with te so yeah, I was a lecturer at Huddersfield Uni, and I've kind of I'll still do one-off sort of workshops, or I'm teaching a novel writing course actually in Haworth with Bronte Writing Centre in
Amazing.
November. But it's that one-to-one that I love with other writers. And it's funny because I feel like, and I'm sure you found this as well, Rose. Um, with other people's work, you have there's that distance there, and you can kind of see things that sometimes they can't. And it's the same with you. It is a collaborative process. It's not just the genius that comes out of your own mind. You do need other people. So I love sort of bouncing ideas and trying to help someone elevate their work. I think that's really special. It feels magical when you get it right, and you might just see something, and it might just be really obvious, and you might make a suggestion, and the other writer will, when you see their sort of face light up, and it's just a beautiful thing. I think that's definitely one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Yeah, I can sense the kind of sparkle in your voice and in your eyes there about that. I think collaboration is a bit of an unsung hero sometimes in art pursuits because there's often this misconception that artists are these solo creatures, working away in the dark on their own and tortured artists and souls and things like that. But actually, it is the coming together of different voices and, like you say, different perspectives that often then lead to these really rich creations that couldn't maybe have happened without all of those voices gently reflecting or guiding or asking. So, yeah, that's really powerful. We are going to jump into our kind chat. And I use the letters in the word kind to help frame our discussions. I use a word for each letter in the word kind. And the first letter is K. So the word that I've chosen is kitchen. So, Sarish, what's in your creative kitchen? What do you use to cook up kindness for yourself?
I love this. I love this so much. Oh gosh. So all right, I'll start off by being really obvious. I need books, obviously, just to look at because they're pretty, but they're even more so now. I mean, books have always been like these magical things to me, obviously, you have to be a reader if you want to be a writer.
Mm,
Um, but especially now because they're not things that need charging. You don't have to limit your time on them. And I don't know, it's kind of become this, I feel, a sacred act, really, physically picking up a book and, I don't know, it's so special. And I just love being surrounded by books. And I like having them on my desk. I like them being cluttered. I like, having all that chaos, but notebooks as well, just anything that requires that old school pencil, paper, kind of vibe. So yeah, I'm going to be obvious and start with that one. But I think with your question about what do I, to bring kindness onto myself, I think definitely there has to be a certain compassion to yourself
mm.
um as a creative because yeah, it's so easy to burn out. It's so easy to burn out. It's so easy to feel frustrated. And I had one of those days yesterday, actually, Rose, where I was trying to write a chapter and it wasn't going well. And we all have those days. And I felt restless for the rest of the day. And it's so silly. I know I can do it, but it was just really hard. And I thought, you start questioning everything. Oh, is this idea not strong enough? And what if I just can't write anymore? And oh my goodness, all this panic. And then I was adamant that at the end of the day, I was going to go back and have another go at it, but I was tired. I was exhausted. It takes quite a lot out of you. Um,
Sure.
as well as, because you also have to do life stuff as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And I just said, it's okay. I actually said that to myself. It's okay. You don't need to. You can rest. And it's that feeling like don't feel guilty for resting. I think, especially as women, it's something that we really need to keep reminding ourselves. Um, so yeah, I just kind of lounged about then and binge watched something on on Netflix instead, and I needed that. Um, so that's another thing. But I would also say solitude is in my kitchen on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
I'm always, yeah, I don't know what you think about this, but I feel, and I'm not someone who lives in a really busy house, I don't have children. I'm sure it's much harder for people with kids, where they're trying to find space to write. But um, those early morning sort of hours are really sacred to me before everyone else gets up. I just, it's not that I just need to go to my desk and shut the door and that's it. I don't feel like that's solitude. Solitude's in the morning for me. I need that quiet because once everyone else, as in the rest of the world, wakes up, then the phone keeps ringing, the doorbell keeps going on. My mum will shout me, oh, this needs doing, that needs doing. And yeah, I feel like I'm always chasing solitude. For example, I got all ready and set up and I was going to write and it was like 7 a.m. And next thing, our gardener turned up. It was very early. I know, very early. And I was like, what are you? And I was like, what are you doing here? Disturbed my solitude.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I'm constantly like trying to find pockets of. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
same with you, but yeah.
I mean, you are so a writer, chasing solitude. What a beautiful phrase that I think can be very relatable for a lot of people, whether that's just 10 minutes to stare out the window and catch your breath, or like you say, having a few hours in the morning to write. And the rest, the idea of rest and the idea of not feeling guilty for rest is coming up again and again in these chats. And it is just such a signifier that we're in such a crunchy way of making our way through the world. And well done for taking an evening to just recharge in the way that you needed to, for sure.
Yeah.
When you were talking about books before as well, I definitely echo that. In the background of my blurred Zoom screen is a couple of big bookshelves full of poetry books. And I remember once seeing years ago on some social media platform that there was a big armchair that was made out of bookshelves. I don't know if you've ever come across that, but I just like audibly gasped and thought, I need something like that in my life.
Yeah, well, I've not seen that. You'll have to send me it, but that
Yeah.
sounds amazing, doesn't it?
If I
Yeah.
can find it again, just to nestle basically in like a nest of books, that would be great. Oh, amazing. Well, let's move on to the next letter, which is I. And the word for I is inspiration in this chat. So, where do you find inspiration?
In the strangest place, in the strangest places, like all of us, I think. A lot of observation, I'd say. Um, Often in the mundane. It's I think so. When I was writing my first novel, I wrote it as part of my PhD at university, and I kept having to dissect where I'd got things from. What research had I done? And I was like, I don't know, because I was writing about my community, families like me, people who look like me, and I was like, oh, I don't really know what to say because I've just been listening to people and watching people and like stealing bits of conversation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I still do that. And it is strange. It's funny where you get inspiration from. It can just be it can come from scrolling. I think, for examples, a couple of things that have inspired this recent book that I'm working on, things like when Benjamin Zephaniah sadly passed away, I was just reading, watching a documentary about him on
Hmm.
BBC, and he was performing a poem, and he called himself. It was basically him talking about the fact that he was childless and he
Hmm.
called himself childless. And it really struck me. I was like, wow, because that's sort of something that we throw onto women. And there's this man, and he's called himself childless, and he's like grieving that. And I'd never really come across that before. And I kind of like, that's it. I just took that and went off and did a deep dive, and he'd done a whole podcast actually where How to Fail actually with Elizabeth Day, where he talked about that was one of his failures to become a father, and how much it had, how much sadness that brought to him. And yeah, I just kind of took that and that feeling, and that's something that I'm sort of exploring in my new novel. So it can just be, and I actually, when I was watching that documentary, I think it was Ramadan. I seem to get a lot of inspiration during Ramadan because I'm awake in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
often on my own, watching like random stuff on the telly. And yeah, it was like, I guess like 3 in the morning. I was watching Benjamin Zephaniah performing this, and I can't remember the name of the poem. I should know this, shouldn't I? Um, but yeah, it's just something like that that can just spark something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Oh, there's so much in there. I definitely echo your I've listened to How to Fail with Elizabeth Day a number of times, and it's just such a wonderful exploration of just how human we are and that we fail on things and that can bring joy. But yeah, that idea of in your PhD writing a novel and then having to academically trace things that sound like they were just kind of woven into you. The image I get is trying to grab water, that it's just sort of
Mm.
flowing around you and to really kind of pinpoint that. But also then interesting that you could pinpoint that moment with Benjamin Zephaniah talking about being childless and then, yeah, going off on your own path with it.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about you've mentioned that you're writing your third novel, which is very exciting, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to or say too much, but is there anything that you can share?
Um, well, it's very, very early stages, but I think my first two novels were very. The first one was like a multi-generational family saga, it spanned 3 decades. Sometimes I think back on that and I think, how did I pull that off? But well, I hope I did. But it was big. You know, huge and very about complex families and that kind of thing. And I said, right, I don't want to do the same thing again. So with the second novel, I sort of went a little bit historical. It was about the partition, but it was set in 2017 in England, and it was kind of looking back. But then that kind of became a bit multi-generational
Right.
family saga as well. Yeah. Um, and then this time I was like, right, now I really do not want to do that. I'm fed up with these complicated families. I'm done. I'm not going to span decades. I'm going to span maybe 3 days or something. So that's where that's where I'm starting, and um, it's basically about two characters, um, and I'm exploring the sort of climate that we're in at the moment. After the sort of the Southport murders, which were obviously horrific, and the aftermath of that, and politically, socially, where we are now, and where things could end up, like if it just
Mm.
gets worse and worse and worse. It, as I'm writing it, it just doesn't feel like something unprecedented anymore. That would never happen. It's like, gosh, this kind of dystopia that I'm touching on is like racing towards us almost. Um, so yeah, those are kind of like the themes that I'm exploring between, through these two characters. Um, there's like an attack in London, and um, the main character's injured, and he's kind of like just lying there, going back and forth, thinking about how he ended up there, significant moments in his life. Um, yeah, that's sort of where we're at.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much for giving us a little peek behind the writing curtain there, and we will wait with excited and gentle anticipation for that to come out. But as you're talking about that, it's understandable anyways that writing can be quite an exhausting process, but particularly with something like this where there is a lot that you are, I'm sure, reflecting on or looking into or writing through. So, yeah, really wishing you well on that journey for sure.
Thank you.
So, the next letter in the word kind is N. And the word that I have for this is noticing. And often when I'm chatting with creative folks, there's a sense of noticing, a sense of being really open to pick up, like you say, observations about your grandma or a poem that someone has shared or a line. And so I think as creatives, we generally notice quite a bit. But because of this chat being about kindness, the question is actually, what are you noticing about kindness these days?
Well, I guess first of all, just how important it is and how necessary it is and how essential it is. Um, you can say the obvious thing, can't you? That um we need to be kind to each other. We say these things, don't we? But actually implementing that and putting that into action is a completely different thing. And I would say in the world that we're living in now, what I'm noticing is that even trying to be kind or just trying to understand is kindness in itself, I would say. You don't have to understand everything and everyone. People are different, they have different opinions, and there's all sorts going on. We can't all be the same. But that attempt to understand and that attempt to try, regardless, is a form of kindness, I would say. And also, as much as that you're trying to put out, to put it back into yourself as well. Because what I notice a lot is I have a sister and I also have a best friend, and we're all so supportive of each other. And we're bigging each other up constantly. And we're like, we say to each other, look, you have to look after yourself and don't worry, it's all going to be okay. And you need to prioritize your peace, and you need to prioritize your rest. And we're constantly giving each other advice, but we reserve that kindness for other people, not not ourselves. Not ourselves. And the way we talk to ourselves is really important because I've said, sometimes when we can, be a bit mean and bully ourselves, really. I think we
Hmm.
can do that. We can bully ourselves.
Yeah.
And, actually stopping and thinking, like, you know, would I tell my sister this, what I'm saying to me now? And I've said that to her. I said, the way you're talking about yourself, would you say those things to me? No, no, she'd
Hmm.
absolutely not. I said, but why are you saying them to yourself? And I do the same to myself as well. So yeah, putting it out there,
Yeah.
but bring it back as well. How you
Yeah.
talk to yourself and yeah.
I mean, that's just at the heart of this podcast and this project of looking at the ways that we talk to ourselves and is there kindness in that? And if not, can we boost that a little bit? Because we do, I think, particularly as creatives, I'm not saying that all creatives are inherently generously kind, but there is often a common denominator there because we are gifting things through creativity out into the world. And so that output is often quite huge.
Mm.
But in order to do that, you have to have the resource somewhere within to draw from that. And you mentioned burnout before too, and I think that that can be really, really common, particularly in this sector of putting out, whether it's writing or painting or singing or, whatever your creative output is, of remembering to fill that well. But yeah, also that negative self-talk is just
Mm.
so depleting. And I really resonate with what you say about the things that we know, the things that we say. We know these things. We know it's important to speak kindly to yourself, and we know it's important to um, be able to sort of rest and recharge. But the step into implementing that sometimes feels miles and miles away. And it's something we just, I think going back to what you said too about trying, we just keep trying to do it.
Yeah, definitely. But and I also think because we are being bombarded because I read something somewhere that we weren't meant to know this much. Like the world's at our fingertips. You hear all this, and you can kind of dismiss it as therapy talk speak or Instagram speak by, oh, our cortisol levels are raised and our nervous system can't handle this. But it's true. It's true, isn't it? Our parents and grandparents didn't live like this, and they probably had much happier lives. Um, and yeah, I think restrict a bit of social media. That's a form of kindness to yourself. I've actually put a block on my phone so I don't look at it before 10 a.m.
Yeah, I've heard of a few people talking about that recently. I try to do that in a kind of analog way. On Sundays, I try to have a bit of a social media sabbatical.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work, but I think, yeah, that the fact that you commit to that by restricting it on your phone before 10 is excellent. And we need to really lean into the ways to do that because they're designed to be addictive and draw us in. So if there's a way to just, pause that, that's good. But boy, yeah, that sentence of we weren't meant to know this much. It is really resonant because we then give ourselves a hard time for being overwhelmed or burnt out when actually these things are being designed to come at us all the time. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, the tools that are available to us to be able to switch off or to just notice that, oh, I'm a bit overwhelmed and depleted. I will give myself a moment and go and
Yeah.
just watch some easy show or lie on the couch is fine, is important. So the last letter in the word kind is D, and the word I've chosen is dream. And this is a question that you can interpret however you like. What do you dream of for kindness in the future?
That's a biggie, isn't it? I think my interpretation of that, and again, it comes back to understanding, and I guess that's why, or trying to understand, and I guess that's why I felt this draw and this pull to be a writer, to write something, because I felt like I had something to say. And it is through stories, I think, is where it's the best way in which to reach people. I guess my dream for kindness was obviously that it never leaves our planet. It's despite everything that goes on, it's still there. But also we're able to share. but we're also able to listen. We're also able to listen. It's such, I think again, I watched this absolutely amazing interview with two of my favorites, James Baldwin and Maya Angelou. And it was just
Lovely.
glorious. Like, they walk out of the house together, hand in hand, and they sit down in the garden and they get their cigarettes out, which is so cool. But they just talk. And I just loved watching every nuance on their face and the way they talk. Their voices are just divine. Um,
Yeah.
but there was a comment on there, and someone said, "We don't listen anymore." And I guess we do because of podcasts. They're very big, but not, I don't know, not in the same way we used to. Just stop everything and listen. It's not. It was just a conversation, and you were kind of like being invited to be a part of it, and it just felt so beautiful. Conversation and stories. That's what I hope and I dream for. That is an act of kindness, I guess. Being able to share and being able to take it in without sort of judgment, without, feeling attacked. Um, yeah.
I think that links a bit with what you were saying before about how we're not meant to know so much. And I think about uh when we're really full, like if we're really full after a big meal, the thought of having like another bite, it isn't just like a no thank you. It's like, oh my, I will be sick. I can't. It's too much. And I wonder if there's something, a connection there with our brains or our minds or our just sensory of like we are inundated. And then to
Mm,
think of listening and taking on board someone else, it is when we are at saturation point all the time, it makes that really, really difficult. On
mm,
top of then being expected to respond instantaneously, quickly, pithy, attacking all of that right away. And so stories, by their very nature, require listeners.
yeah.
And so, yeah, that idea of that still being alive in us is
Yeah.
important and beautiful.
And it's always been there, and it's just evolving, that act of storytelling and being there on the receiving end of it. And I think we are trying to, like, I think with podcasts, because just listening, it's such a beautiful thing. And it's clear that we're still yearning for those things, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, something I like because I do listen to quite a lot of podcasts, that intimacy of it going right into your ears and feeling like you are a fly on the wall in a conversation is really fun.
Yeah.
I also feel like I want to get some really cozy jammies and come and watch TV with you at 3 in the morning because it sounds like you stumble across some
Oh, I
really
do.
amazing things.
Come
Yeah.
along.
Well,
Time.
I'll definitely look up the Benjamin Zephaniah documentary and this interview with James Baldwin and
Oh, yeah.
Angelou. Well, we're coming to the end of our chat, and I would love to know, as a final kind of thought, the aim for this podcast is to explore ways that we can keep kind, creative, and connected. So, do you have a top tip for how we can do that?
First of all, if you're a writer, don't read Goodreads reviews
Yeah.
or Amazon reviews. Or if you do, just maybe don't. Um, but it's a good thing. You're doing something right if people are, not agreeing with everything you say. That's a good thing. I would say stay curious. It's that curiosity. It's hard because again we keep coming back to it, but we keep being bombarded with all this information, and it's hard to because it seems like every interest that you may have, somebody's making content about it. It's becoming a fashionable thing. Do something because you love doing it. I took quite a long break. Well, I'd say it was a long break from writing, where I literally didn't write a word for about a year or 18 months, in between my novels. And then when I did sit back down to go at it again, I thought, oh gosh. And things are changing so much with AI and people, writing Instagram captions and emails with with help of ChatGPT, and what we do is sacred now, I think. But I just loved being so focused and like agonizing over every word in a sentence. Like it just brought me so much joy. I was like, no, this is me. This is what humans do, you know. It's hard finding something in this day and age to, pique your interest that hasn't been sort of, turned into content. Um, so stay curious, I would say. There's still so much to discover, isn't there?
Oh, I think I just got goosebumps. Stay curious. There's so much to discover. Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I'm I'm reminded of this comment that a friend of mine made years ago. So I studied theater at the University of Winnipeg years ago, and one of my classmates, Sterling, was responding to, there was some discussion, I think, in a lecture about things being done before, and there came up that sense of, there's nothing new, it's all been done before. And I remember him just so powerfully and confidently saying, well, maybe that's done before, but I've never done it. And
Yeah,
that comes back to me so often of, you know, like with this podcast, there's quadrillions of podcasts out there, but not by me, not chatting with
yeah,
you. And I think it's giving space for that to discover. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Do it because you want to, because you love it, and because it makes you happy. Just do it. It doesn't matter if someone's done it bigger or better. Like, who cares? You do it because you want to do it.
Well, that feels like such a joyful place to wrap up our chat. But before we finish, is there anything you would like to plug? Where can we find your books? Where can we find info about you?
Well, I have two novels that are available from all good bookstores. Um, I have I've recently opened up some slots actually for mentoring.
Ah,
If there are any writers, um, I yeah put out a cutesy little Instagram post saying that if anybody, because it's nice now that I have a little bit more free time to, for me to work with people that I want to work, who I can see a really good partnership developing. So yeah, you can check out my Instagram for details on that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just around. Hopefully my latest novel, it'll be quite a wait. It's a slow process, isn't it, with publishing? But yeah, that should be out, let's say, in a couple of years.
well, lovely. I'll link your Instagram in the show notes along with some of the other things that we've chatted about. But for now, just such an enormous thanks, Sarish, for all of the first story meetings we had when you were part of the team or the encounter that we had at the Huddersfield Literature Festival. It's felt so nice to spend this time really deep diving into some things and hearing your wisdom and reflection. So thank you so much. Oh, what a nourishing chat. I'm really reflecting on what we spoke about with the excessive information that we're expected to take in. And I'm feeling really grateful for these discussions where I get to slow down and drop down into some spacious and thoughtful and inspiring chats. Discussions like this one feel like a warm sweater or cozy socks or a nice cup of tea. Hopefully, there's some similar vibes for you too, listener. Huge, huge thanks to you, Sarish. And a big thanks to you for listening. We'll have another episode coming your way soon. You can like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and YouTube, where there are captions available. You can also share a comment if you like. It would be great to hear from you. If you want to find out more about me and my work, you can drop me a line through my website, rosecondo.net, where you can see gorgeous illustrations by Neve Wood, also known as Little Badger. Our beautiful music has been composed and recorded by Eleonora Rosca. And finally, please share this. Tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell someone who maybe needs some nourishing chat in their lives. Help us to keep kind, creative, and connected.